Welcome to Business Talk Sister Rock, and today's episode title is How to Market Your Business Using Organic Social Media. And with me today, I have Billy, which I'm going to mess up your last name because I always think it's your maiden name.
No,
Billy
it's
Asmus.
Osmus.
Asmus, okay.
Osmus. Yep.
There we go. Sorry about that.
That it happens all the time.
And we're going to be talking about social media in general, just because Billy has done a lot with this. And tell us a little bit about what you do, because I know we've done an episode together, but for some people that maybe missed that one, give us a recap on that first.
Yeah, so I'm an inventor and a creator, and I invented this product called the Repaint Tray. It's a reusable and eco-friendly paint tray liner and lid. And I just launched it into the market on February 1st of this year of 2024. And needless to say, I'm pretty much out of inventory. It's been an absolute wild ride. I'm super excited about it. I was super nervous to launch the product because I was the only one using it to, test it and see how it was going to work before I actually launched it. So I was really nervous I was going to launch this product and everybody's going to hate it. And come to find out, a lot of people love it. A lot of people have been using it, and I've been getting really good feedback and reviews. So that's what I've been doing. But otherwise, my background, my degree is communication and marketing, and that's where the bulk of my experience has been up until I started my own business. So really, with having your own business, you got to do all of your own marketing until you can actually afford to hire somebody. And so up until this point, I've been only doing organic marketing to get the word out about my product and my business. And I found a strategy that's been working, and I've just kind of been sticking with it.
Yeah. And did you just say you sold out?
Pretty much. I've got like 100 paint trays left. So if you haven't ordered one, go get it now.
Okay. And so are you looking like to put a pause until you get another bulk order in, or how is, sorry, this is a side tangent, but I just
No.
want to know.
I know I'm not gonna press pause. Basically, the next round of inventory should be in like 2 weeks.
Okay.
So if somebody does order, it'll be back ordered for like a week or two before we'll be able to ship them one. So they'll still get one. It'll just be a slight delay.
Okay, very cool. Tell me a little bit about launching this product, and what did you do with social media, and how did you leverage it, and what did you see happen?
So I started on social media promoting the repaint tray and my product and business like a year before I even had a working prototype or really a functioning business for that matter. I don't even think I was like a registered LLC when I created my social media account and started talking about it. And the only reason I started talking about it on social media is because I was in a pitch competition. And if I had made the top three, there was going to be a press release that was going to go out in several local newspapers. And I didn't want people in the local towns and area to find out what I was working on and not hear me talk about it or say anything about it. So I wanted to be the first one to announce it. And so I went on an Instagram or a Facebook Live and I just talked about my prototype. I said, this is what I'm working on, and I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to get there, but I just wanted to talk about it now because you might see about it in the newspaper in a couple weeks. Uh,
Okay.
that's the only reason I started talking about it. And then I just slowly updated people from there and just said, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm working on. And if you want to support me, this is how you can do it. So I kind of gained that social media support early on, and
Hmm.
they saw all the phases of my business from the idea phase to the prototyping to the, first product sample to the packaging, all that kind of stuff. And so I've kind of built it from there. And then when I was actually able to promote it and say, okay, now you can actually go and buy it, people were really excited and started sharing it a lot more. And traction kind of just started to grow from there.
Okay. Yeah, so with that, I guess, did you share things just on your business page, or were you also sharing it on your personal page? And how did you leverage back and forth knowing what to put where?
I pretty much did everything on my business page, and then I would just share uh that post or that story on my personal page. So there was some back and forth. A lot of times if it was a more personal type achievement with the business, sometimes I would only share that on my personal page, but I was still talking about the business, that if there were followers on my personal page that saw or heard about it, then they knew who to follow or where to go when it came to the repaint tray stuff.
Okay. So you weren't totally blowing up your personal social all the time.
No, not all the time.
Okay. Okay. So let's define before we get any farther organic social media, just so people understand what it is versus all the other kinds of social media strategies out there. What does that mean to you, organic?
So organic marketing or advertising is you're not putting any money behind your strategy. So you're not paying for advertisements, you're not boosting your posts, you're not really paying for any type of ad placement whatsoever to be able to get sales. Pretty much everything organic is you're creating content, you're sharing videos and posts. You might do some collaboration with some people. Again, that's not paid to be able to promote your product and get the word out there. And that's all I've been able to do so far.
Okay. Yeah. So where's the very first place you need to start with organic social media? Do you sit down and come up with just a list of posts, or do you have like a, hey, this is the strategy we're going for? How does that look?
In the very beginning, when I didn't have a product, so to speak, to be able to advertise, I had to leverage my skills that I already had. So a lot of times I was talking about what is happening in the painting market. So what are the trending paint colors right now? What are the trends for DIY for painting? Right
Mm-hmm.
now, it's like the color drenching, where you're painting the walls and the ceilings and the doors and the trim all the same color. So it's talking about different aspects to be able to still be relevant, but it's also tying into what my product was going to be. So I tried to do some of that or like helpful tips on like selecting the right size paintbrush or the different type of roller naps or the different types of paint finishes that you can get for a space. So I tried to leverage that as much as I could, and I realized some of that wasn't always going to be sustainable long term because eventually you're going to run out of things to say or do. So I was only posting about, 2 to 3 times a week if I could. Sometimes it was less than that. But after that, when I actually had a product to be able to promote and talk about, then it was showing the features of it and here's how it works, here's what you can use with it, and all these types of things. And then it was still integrating in the tips and tricks to be able to stay relevant and top of mind. So I was hitting a couple different demographics or different groups of people, somebody that loves DIY and painting, or as a homeowner just looking to look for some easy tips to be able to paint their bedroom, or somebody who is an avid painter or contractor that's looking for something, a tool more long term that they can use over and over again that's going to help reduce their cost. And there's so many different aspects that I could kind of talk about both in the beginning phases, then when I also had a product to actually promote.
Okay. So did you start sharing some of the DIY stuff in Facebook groups, or was it just on your page? How did people start seeing that content?
It was really me just asking friends and family and followers to share my content. I couldn't really post in Facebook groups because most of Facebook groups don't allow any type of promotion or you talking about your business. I was able to get on some podcast shows. I joined a podcasting group and just said, "Hey, I'm looking to get on some podcasts to talk about my product and what I'm doing." And so I was able to kind of get the word out that way. Otherwise, I would go to some like local events. So there was a women's group here in town that I went to, and it was kind of more a motivational speaker type thing. And so they had asked some people in the group, what are some of your goals or what are you working on, that kind of thing. And so I stood up and I had shared what I was working on. And so that opened up another opportunity for me to share my product and my business with other people in the group. And there was like hundreds of women there, and a lot of them were very interested. And so they were able to follow along that way. So there's so many different ways that you can reach people that isn't just on social media too.
Okay. Yeah. So is it important to have any kind of rules on engagement in place that you've learned about? Like, okay, should post this type of content on this day or anything like that? Do you have some things that you've learned?
Yeah, I mean, I follow a couple different accounts that share a lot of the strategy that help me stay up to date with a lot of the different social media algorithms. TikTok is impossible. I think everybody has admitted that it is so hard to keep up with and understand what's working and not working because ultimately it's going to come down to the people and the content that they want to see and like. However, with, Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest and all that kind of stuff is It's really helpful if you are targeting a group that you would be a part of. So for myself, I love DIY. I love painting. I love home improvement. And so I have to ultimately flip the script on myself and think, okay, if I am from the consumer standpoint, what is a video or content that I would stop and want to read or save or comment on and say that, wow, that's really cool? Or what is something that I would want to share? And so when I sit down and kind of go through some of the strategy for the week of what I'm going to create for content, I have to think about what is something that people really like to engage with and really like, and what is something that could be helpful or useful that isn't always just product related. Because if it's 100% product related all the time, you're going to start to lose people because then you're just constantly hammering kind of, this advertising that they don't always need to see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's, coming up with different strategy and seeing what's already working based off of the content that you've already posted and then adjusting it from there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, education is a huge piece of it, or especially within the groups that you're looking to engage with. What about email lists? Is that something that you've looked at, or do you think is a good idea for some people? How does that play into things?
Email can be huge, and I will admit I have not utilized my email list as much as I should. And a lot of that comes down to a time aspect is, I'm running several different areas of my business right now, and it's not anything that I've really utilized, but I know it's important and it's something that I need to start doing more of. So we are working on adjusting that, and I know it can be vital for sure. I've seen it happen with a lot of other businesses that utilize it. From my personal take on it, I feel like you have to find a happy medium when it comes to email strategy or email marketing. Because I've seen a lot of businesses that they are throwing out like 3 emails a week, and it can get really annoying. People are going to unfollow you, that kind of stuff. But if you find a happy medium and you're also providing like resources versus just straight marketing, there's going to be a good middle ground where people are going to be like, oh, that is really helpful. And that was a really great free resource that they just gave me. I want to look into this more. Um, so there's different strategies to do that. And it's something that I need to utilize more for sure.
Okay, and so what kind of frequency is important to be posting?
It's gonna vary from, account to account. Right now it's tough because you're pretty much having to post just about every single day. My general rule of thumb is I need to be posting at least 4 or 5 times a week.
Hmm.
Um, so at least once a day. Some people say it needs to be more than that, but to me, that's just going to create burnout. But for my account, I am always looking at when the highest engagement is, and when I see that there's uh, not necessarily a lot of people on my page, but when there's going to be high engagement, meaning they're liking, they're commenting, they're sharing. And so we actually played around with that a little bit. So I noticed that in the morning, around like between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Central, that was when a lot of people were online. They were usually engaging. My theory is that, okay, they've dropped off kids at school or at daycare or they're at work and they're kind of like in that mid-morning rough, where it's like close to lunch, but not quite yet, that they just need to get on their phone and check something and just kind of zone out for a little bit. So I noticed engagement was pretty high then. Another high peak point was around like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And again, I think that's when people are starting to kind of wind down for the day. So they're hopping on their phones. But I noticed that even though we started posting around like 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, it was getting views, but there was less engagement. So there wasn't a lot of
Hmm.
likes, there wasn't a lot of comments, there wasn't a lot of sharing. It was just kind of like, oh, that's cool, they're seeing it. Whereas in the morning, there was way more engagement and more
Hmm.
views. So they were commenting, liking, sharing, all that kind of stuff. So that's when we kind of shifted and said, okay, we're going to stop doing the evening stuff. Whereas, like, if it falls behind and there's something that's posted in the evening, that's okay. But for the most part, we need to be posting around this time frame in the mornings. And then I just, for an automatic rule of thumb, I usually take Saturday and Sunday off from posting on social media. Some people say you need to be posting every single day. To me, I don't feel like it makes that big of a difference as long as you're getting decent engagement on your content throughout the week.
So then how much time do you dedicate to creating that content? And then is it a variety, or have you found only only video or something like that?
We try and do a variety. For sure the carousels with Instagram and Facebook. And a lot of times we utilize that if we've written a blog or there's some type of helpful tip or trick. Sometimes I do the video. Um, Sometimes we'll repurpose that content. So if it's been like a really, really busy week, then I'll have one of my assistants go back and look further on my account from like a year ago and see, okay, what were some of the posts that were you know, that were done that had good engagement? How can we kind of repurpose that and reuse that and maybe change some aspects of it? So we'll do some of that. But as far as a time aspect, I mean, it's hard because I'm running, the business full time. And so finding the time to be able to dedicate to doing content can be really difficult. It is helpful now that I do have somebody to help me edit some video and she helps me come up with ideas. But for the most part, all of the filming is coming down to me. So for a while, I was dedicating at least one day a week to be able to bulk create content. And then we could use that for at least a week, maybe sometimes 2 weeks. It just depends on how ambitious I was. Otherwise, lately, I've been doing it in the evening. So after my kids go to bed between like 7 and 8 o'clock, and we've cleaned up, from dinner and the end of the day, then I will go down to my studio and I'll try and create a couple videos to be able to have for the next couple days. I realize there's just different strategies that people can do that's going to work for their schedules, but for me, it's just, creating a couple of videos in the evening and using those over the course of the next couple of days. And sometimes it changes between TikTok versus Instagram and what's going to work. So it's being able to, again, find that happy medium between what's working really well on TikTok versus what's working really well on Instagram.
Okay. And you mentioned those two platforms, but is Facebook a player in that as well?
Yeah, and I use Facebook, but it's Facebook is an interesting one. As far as the demographic goes, there's an older generation that's definitely on Facebook. And I'm not saying that they don't use my product because it is evident that they do use it. There's just much less engagement on Facebook as there is on Instagram or TikTok, which is primarily younger audiences. Facebook groups is where a lot of the younger generations are going to be, the millennials or Gen Z. They are the ones in the Facebook groups that are part of like DIY groups or painting groups, entrepreneurship groups. Those would be really, really helpful to tap into, but you have to be very careful with approaching those groups because a lot of times they don't allow any sort of business promotion or product promotion.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I think that we are probably gonna have to do two episodes with this because the next one I want to get into is like that whole aspect of trying to get help and what that looks like and how what to look for in people that you do either hire or subcontract to. But with that, I would like to ask, how can people find you?
Yeah, so you can check out my website. It's repaintstudios.com. Otherwise, my Instagram page is repaint_Trey. You can definitely go check it out and see what content I'm pushing out. Otherwise, on TikTok is another one that I try and stay consistent with, and that is the_repaint lady. So definitely go check those out and give us a follow.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so now we are going to transition to the GOG portion. And you have a story about somebody who reached out to you on TikTok and what happened with that? Because I'm excited to talk about this
Yeah.
experience.
So if anybody's on TikTok, you know that everybody has their username and you can't always see like their profile or necessarily picture. It just depends on the person and what kind of content they're putting out. So this particular person had reached out to me in the DMs and just said, "Oh, I've been using your paint tray. I've been using it for a bathroom remodel. I love it. I'm an engineer, so if you're working on creating new product or need help with product design, like let me know. I'd be happy to talk and, be a part of some future projects." And so I looked at their profile. There was like no videos, no profile pictures. So I had no idea who this was. And just so I just said, "Oh yeah, like oh the stars align." I was just kind of being silly and goofy, and I just said, "I've been looking for an engineer. This would be great. I'd love to talk." And here, after I got his email and I looked him up, I realized he's got like this massive resume. He's this big engineer that has worked in sustainability for Harvard. And he's like a professor at Harvard too, and he's worked with some massive companies. And I just like, oh my gosh, I felt so embarrassed with the way that I was just talking because here he's like this big wig who has tons of experience and works for Harvard. And I'm like, yeah, paint trays. And but at the same time, I felt like very humbled and honored that, he saw value in my product and, liked what I was putting out there for content and wants to do something with me. So I'm curious to see how that conversation's gonna go.
Yeah. Well, and I think justifiably so though that you are like, oh, some random person reaching out to me because, like I feel there's a lot of bots and a lot of other things that are always
Exactly.
happening that you're like, I'm not even sure if this person's really a real person or yeah, so I
Mm-hmm.
could see why that would be like the trust slash distrust of social media that comes into play, right?
100%. Yes.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining me today. And in the next episode, we're gonna get more into social media and some different aspects there. There was like a whole nother category. I was like, oh, we should have talked about that. So we'll have to do that in a little bit here. And if you enjoyed this episode, you should give it a review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you next time.